Hello, everyone, and welcome to a presentation from SEL for New Jersey, hosted by the New Jersey Family Engagement Hub. Before I turn everything over to Erica, I would first like to explain a bit about the role of the New Jersey Family Engagement Hub. So we recognize that students thrive when families and communities are engaged in their school community and with increasing likelihood of student success. Our goals are to promote and engage in activities and policies that build collaborative partnerships among youth, family, schools, and community in order to enhance child development and student achievement. We are committed to serve as a centralized information hub on family engagement, inform educators, practitioners, and family about the latest educational opportunities and barriers by providing technical assistance, resources, and support on effective family engagement policies, practices, and activities that lead to improvements in student development, academic achievement, and long-term success. We provide parents and caregivers with easy to understand, usable information to solve present day problems. We help provide youth with a voice to share their experiences and ideas and support their continued academic success. We also help with enhancing parent and family capacity to effectively work with schools and professionals to meet children's needs. Now, without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Erica from SEL for New Jersey.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Okay, everyone, let's get started with tonight's presentation. So tonight we are talking about the power of knowing yourself, helping students to thrive. So we want to know a little bit about you. And I know some of you were actually here last night, which is fantastic to see you again. We would love to know where you're located, how old your children are that you either work with or that you have at home, and what do you think of when you hear the term self-awareness? We'll just take a minute to enter those ideas into the chat box. All right, Carrie, thank you. So, a knowledge of yourself, emotions, reactions, and your capabilities. Yep, all those things that we're going to talk about tonight. Aware of your emotional state. Yep, that's the big one that we will be delving into more. Thank you for your participation. Um, just give it another couple seconds. And we understand if some folks are on their phone and they can't type into the chat box, no worries at all. We'll be using the chat box throughout the session, but if you are unable to use it, it's totally okay. Okay, we have Jen. Montclair, 10 years old, understanding where you are in space. Very nice. Thank you, Jen. Sue is writing in from Cranford. Oh, three children, 11, 9, and 6, aware of space, how close you are to others, giving them space as well as your own space and emotions. Absolutely. Thank you all so much for jotting in your thoughts and who you are. We're excited to have you here. I am going to just share a little bit about myself. And I just want to let the folks who were here last night know that the first couple slides probably will sound similar to last night, but I promise it's a totally different presentation. So just stick with me here. So my name is Erica Brenton. I have been an educator for over 20 years and started my career as a New York City public school teacher. I then saw the benefits of social emotional learning on my students and honestly myself as a teacher. So I delved very deep into that work and became a social emotional learning specialist. I live in Montclair, New Jersey with my husband and two children. I have a middle schooler and an elementary school child. And in my free time, I like to go on walks, long walks, read, and spend time with my family. So I am going to pass over the intro to my co-presenter tonight, Cleo. And Cleo is going to share a little bit about herself.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Erica. And my name is Cleo O'Toole. I am a certified school counselor in the state of New Jersey, currently working in an elementary school in Montclair, New Jersey. That was a career change for myself after 10 years of being at home with my three children, spanning developmental ages between adolescence to early childhood. Deeply passionate about working with children in a school setting, collaborating and empowering students to embrace and develop their emotional intelligence. nurture self-awareness with compassion for themselves and others. And I really describe it as heart work. I do a lot of heart work every day. And interests are lifelong runner. I love to go new places and being with my loved ones.
All right, and we'll hear back from Cleo in just a moment. I just want to share with us what we're going to talk about tonight. So our agenda is we just did our introductions. I'm going to do a very, very quick review of what we talk about when we talk about social emotional learning, or SEL. We'll watch a video on tonight's subject, which is self-awareness. And then Cleo is going to take us through some really tangible tools that you could use with your own children, called the mood meter and the meta moment. They're not only for children, but they're actually also for adults. So stay tuned for that. It'll be a really, really great presentation. And I hope that we walk away with a better understanding of how to foster self-awareness in our children. And I would also say, and in ourselves, this is adult work as well. And that you walk away with tools you can use right away, both with yourself and with your children or your students, if you're here as a teacher or somebody working with children. So it's just a very, very quick understanding of what we talk about when we say social emotional learning. So social emotional learning, or SEL, is if we look at this image right here, it was developed by an organization called CASEL, which is the Center for Academic and Social Emotional Learning. And CASEL believes that every child in our country deserves to be taught social emotional learning skills. And so they divide it up into 5 different categories. And those are the little pieces of the pie that you see in the middle of the image, the orange, yellow, and green. And one of those skills that we're going to be talking about tonight is self-awareness. And they believe that if you're taught these skills, then children are able to manage their own emotions and behaviors, have empathy and show care and concern for others, solve problems effectively, make responsible decisions, and maintain healthy relationships. So just a little bit of an overview of SEL, or social emotional learning, and tonight's topic will be self-awareness. So when we talk about self-awareness, we want to all be on the same page to, like, what does that mean? And I think we all kind of had similar definitions when we entered our ideas into the chat box, but we want to have a kind of a similar vocabulary. So I'm going to actually play a very short video that defines for us, what does it mean when we talk about self-awareness? And then I'm going to hand it over to Cleo to delve a little bit more deeply into that. So I'm going to actually just, toggle my screen here and show our quick video. Okay. And just while you watch this video, just pay attention to anything that comes up for you. Does it change any of the things that you were thinking about before with self-awareness, or does it confirm what you already knew? Well, let's get started.
Learning is a social and interactive process that takes place with teachers, other students, and parents. Our emotions and relationships affect how and what we learn. Students are far better prepared to succeed in school and in life if they have learned social and emotional competencies in addition to academic skills.
We know that when kids have strong social and emotional learning skills, that they are better able to achieve academically, better able to work with others on a team, to collaborate, to manage conflict, manage stress, to achieve goals. They have better life outcomes. So it's critically important that we take this seriously if we want to educate the whole child.
Social emotional learning is basically the focus on social emotional skills, how to interact with others, how to understand yourself, how to be able to behave in a way that you're supposed to in the right settings.
When we think about self-awareness, we're thinking about, how do I know and understand myself, my emotions, my thoughts, my cultural identity? What are the ways in which I feel about a certain situation? Why might I feel that way? How do I understand myself and how I fit into my family and my community and the broader world? We want to give kids opportunities to really think about their own experiences, their own emotions, and how they are dealing with those things.
Self-awareness is really being in touch with oneself. I think as a parent, the best thing you can do is to be honest about how you're feeling, because kids look at us as we're invincible. You know, we're perfect, and we're not. And so I think having honest conversations about your struggles, whether it's at work or, you know, a goal that you're trying to achieve and the challenges that you're having in achieving those goals, kind of brings your situation down to their level so they know they're not alone and that it's normal to kind of feel these different things.
One of the things that we work on when we talk about self-awareness is helping students understand emotions. So teaching the vocabulary for emotions, teaching students to think about what different emotions feel like, and being able to name that for themselves is an important part.
As teachers and adults, we need to go to the next level. And that goes all the way to junior high and high school. There's things called emotion wheels where you have all sorts of words that even as adults we can look at and say, oh yeah, that's a great word for that emotion. So really being able to help them identify their emotions is huge and give them vocabulary that's challenging them. Secondly, then, what do they do with those emotions? What gets you nervous? Or when do you feel stressed out? Or when do you feel angry? Well, I feel angry when Johnny takes my truck. What do you do about it then? But in high school, the same type of thing applies. If I see my friend Stephanie talking to Lisa or sitting with her at lunch, what do I feel? I feel jealous inside. And then asking myself, is that really a big problem? Is that a small problem? In a classroom, we can model that for kids. So as a teacher, I can say, I'm really feeling disappointed today, fill in the blank. And maybe I'll even take some deep breaths or, gosh, everyone's really loud today. We couldn't go outside for recess. I'm feeling frustrated. I need to take some deep breaths. So modeling that to the kids is really important.
Also teaching kids this idea that through hard work, that they're able to be more successful, teaching a growth mindset as opposed to focusing on you're smart, but rather focusing more on effort, helps kids to understand better who they are. Self-awareness is something that is constantly growing, and we want to be able to give kids tools and messaging around how to be thinking about their emotions and their understanding of who they are.
Okay. So Cleo, I'm going to turn it over to you now. I just didn't know if there were if anyone wants to enter into the chat, any reactions they had to the video. I will monitor the chat box while Cleo presents.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I love that video so much. I think it's really helpful. And a couple of standout things they said was the mirroring and the modeling that adults can do for children in self-awareness. But back to the definition of self-awareness. So it is one of the core competencies in social emotional learning is self-awareness, and Duval and Wicklund in 1972. So self-awareness, this is their definition, is a psychological state where individuals focus their attention on their feelings, thoughts, and actions. I'm a bit of a research nerd, so I do love to pop in a little research referencing for people, and especially because you will have these slides saved, and I think you can review yourselves later. Daniel Goleman's Emotional Intelligence Model, 1995. Self-awareness is the foundational emotional intelligence skill. Without self-awareness, regulation of our emotions and empathy becomes very difficult. So next slide, Erica. So as a school counselor in an elementary school, I've been really fortunate to be working with the Ruler program for our emotional intelligence programming, SEL programming at our school. And Ruler was developed at the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. So the acronym stands for Recognize, Understand, Label, Express, and Regulate. So the tools that I'm sharing with you tonight are two specific tools in a model of 4. So we typically deliver 4 in this curriculum, but I'm sharing 2 very specific sort of tangible ones with you folks tonight. But if you want to know more about the Ruler program, I urge you to go onto their website and read on. There's lots of resources also available for you on their website too. So the first Ruler tool and our social emotional and self-awareness tool is the mood meter. So recognizing and labeling our emotions. So this is a visual tool divided into 4 color zones. This helps students build self-awareness by checking in with how they're feeling throughout the day. Promotes empathy by recognizing how others feel. And like Erica said earlier, these are tools that certainly adults are using also. I like the idea of it being a shared experience, no matter what spaces you're working in with children. We always invite the adults to participate in the mood meter check-in in our school, but it's something that if you're in a community organization working with students in a different capacity, adults always use these tools in alongside the kids and students. So the previous slide was a little clue. So obviously there's four quadrants, 4 color zones, and I'm going to walk you through each zone. And sort of, I want you to look at the mood meter and sort of very simply, without looking with any of the language on either side of it, look at it as a quadrant of pleasantness and energy. So if you look on the actual image of the mood meter in the black square, you will see it says energy high and low. So we go up in energy into the red zone and down in energy into the blue zone. And then we're operating left and right in pleasantness. So more pleasant would be yellow and green, and less pleasant is red and blue. So for the kiddos, I will say pleasant or unpleasant, high energy, low energy. And what this really does right away is if you're dealing with very young children, especially preschool age or nonverbal children, this really is a great tool to just give the visual cue, but also where you can simply navigate it in energy levels and whether you're feeling pleasant or unpleasant. That's what I really like about it. So you can bring it right down to that, to those sort of, to navigate it in that manner. What we do at the school is we bring in the vocabulary, and then we would give the vocabulary age appropriate to whatever grade we're working with. So I've given you some examples. We're going to start in the red, high energy, unpleasant zone. So these would be emotions such as feeling angry, annoyed, scared, exasperated, anxious. However, what I have found in my work with students and adults is that depending on the generation, some people can feel red for anxiety, and that's often adults actually. And typically I found statistically more often children will actually sit in a blue zone for anxiety. So I think that's kind of interesting. So again, it's about having conversations about energy level and whether things are feeling pleasant or unpleasant. And usually the students and the adults will get to the right color zone using those 2 indicators. So we're going to stay on the left side of the mood meter, but we're going to drop down into low energy. We're still in an unpleasant zone, right? We're on the left side of the meter, so we're still in unpleasant. So the feelings associated with the color blue would be sad, hurt, lonely, bored, remorseful, ashamed. And if you really want to get into like sort of more detail on this side of the mood meter, some students will find themselves somewhere between red and blue, or maybe they're moving over from like the left side of blue more to the right side of green. And I think you know where I'm going with this, right? We don't usually, so for many of us, it's not just one particular emotion. It can be a combination. So this is where I like this tool also, because it allows children to move up and down, or even sometimes right in the middle. Like a lot of times kiddos will put themselves right in between the red and the blue, and they'll be like, Miss O'Toole, I'm feeling hurt and angry. You know, so it's nice that they have that ability to be able to express themselves, not just with one emotion. So we're going to move over to the left side of the mood meter into our pleasant zones of yellow and green. So we'll start up top right with the yellow. So this is a high energy, pleasant zone. Yellow. Emotions can be associated in this zone are happy, excited, creative, playful, optimistic. Sometimes the kids will say giddy. For myself, sometimes I will say I'm feeling just fulfilled. I'm feeling like light and or confident. and so some other more like complex emotions for the adults sometimes too. So we're still in pleasant, and we're going to drop down though into lower energy green. So our green quadrant is where you may be if you are feeling calm, safe, trusting, thankful. Erica, I cannot see the question on the bottom of this slide because I'm wondering if you can. I like to ask our friends if
I cannot see them in presentation mode.
okay,
But
let
we
me
can.
just. How about what zones do you find the children you work with in typically? And if you are finding in a zone of stress or discomfort, how would you help them regulate? So what zone would you typically find some of your students in, or yourself? And how would you help regulate if it was something that was unpleasant discomfort? If you want to pop any comments into the chat. Love to hear from you folks. I often find my kids in red after an argument. I find they're in green on a weekend morning. Yes, yes. You know, it might be surprising to hear this, but a lot of times after recess, kids will come in and they're green. About 20 minutes after recess, I find that like once they've had that outside time, they're a little bit more green, but yeah, that would track correctly on the weekend. We can move on, Erica, if there's, I've seen a lot of people in red anxious lately. Yes. Ooh, best solution is to talk about self-care. When we work with students, when we work in a capacity from our hearts, it's so important that we recognize when we ourselves are activated or we are in a zone that is dysregulated, discomfort, and that we are not really acting in our best self, and that we know when we need to self-care or take what we need to like fill our own cups, because especially when we work with younger people or people that have high needs, we need to make sure that we're pouring from a cup that we are able to fill for ourselves. So yeah, I like that comment, Kayari, about self-care. Always important to be reminded.
Cleo, should I go on to the next one and we can see if I can let you know if people have more entries in the chat?
Yes, please. Go ahead. So we did talk about at the outset of the presentation that we wanted to give you guys something tangible that you can take away tonight. This is an example of a mood meter that I built very simply out of a magnetic board. I printed off some colored paper, and then I laminated it and cut it into exact squares and just popped it right in the middle of this magnetic board. It's something you could make at home. It's something that you can make at your workplace. And those exist in every classroom in our school. On left and right of the mood meter, of the zones, you see those are little magnets. So what we do at our school and what I've done at home with our family is to write either the student's name or their student number on there. And then this invites the expression, the self-awareness, the how are you feeling today? So we like to start our day off with that. So those, that is a practice for the morning. But if you were in a community organization where you're in charge of children in the afternoon and they come to you after school, that might be a really nice moment to say, hey, maybe if you sit circle with your students or with your community members, this would be a nice time to have everybody individually go up and place themselves on a mood meter. And depending on what the focus is of our lesson that day, sometimes I may not even ask the kids to deliver any more information than just checking in about how they're feeling. And I know sometimes there is the urge, if there's a lot of kids in red or blue, to want to know why or try to help them regulate or move, give them some coping skills. And that's a more developed part of this lesson, and we do that too. But sometimes it really is them just checking in with themselves and knowing, like, I am very angry right now. I am not capable of maybe doing my best learning right now. Or a teacher or somebody who's working with children in that capacity would know maybe they're not ready to do their best learning right now. So it's helpful information for everybody. So this
Cleo,
is,
I just wanted to also share that Trivia just entered into the chat box a couple of ideas that
Mhm.
you're saying right now is like asking questions like, is it true? How does it make me feel? How can I turn it around? And
Mm.
how do we not stay in like that negative place? So I think you're going to get into that, but I just thought it was
Mhm.
those were some good points.
Yes, we would, the meta moment really helps us sort of do that transitional piece. But yeah, we definitely, and another, it's myself, when I use this with students, I always give guidelines on the mood meter, and I want to spend too much time here because we do need to move on. But you know, for you as a community, you could sit down and sit circle with your students and ask, well, what are our rules for the mood meter? Like, do we have a time of day that we use it? It's so important that each student does not touch another student's magnet. You wouldn't, it's sort of like, it's disrespectful to their feelings. So you only move your magnet. So it becomes like a space that is, operates almost like a classroom, you know, where there are guidelines and expectations of it. And I have found that when you set those up, when you first introduce the tool to the students, when you set up the guidelines and the community expectations of the use of it, kids will respect it. And then there's no playing with it. It's not a toy. And I have found that to be really successful with kids, and they take it seriously when they're interacting with it. Is it true? I do like that question too. So our second tool tonight is the meta moment. So again, this is ruler tool number 3 actually in their list. And this is really where you're cultivating and giving students a opportunity to cope, to change the outcome of possibly reacting too strongly in a negative emotion. And so the meta moment, pausing before we react. It teaches students to pause and reflect before responding. It encourages imagining their best self and making thoughtful decisions. I use this myself as an adult, so this is not just for kids. This is a very useful tool for adults as well. And we talked in that video that some of the speakers talked about mirroring and modeling. If you're a teacher or somebody who works with students, if we are using these tools ourselves, there is no greater teacher than them to see us use them effectively. So it's a very simple 4-step process. So step 1, I'm just going to give you a visual and then we'll go through each one in more detail. So step 1 is sensing the moment. So sensing the moment could be maybe it's a physical sensation. Oh, my palms are sweaty. I can feel my heart going. I'm sweating a little bit, or maybe my stomach is really at me. So we're sensing the moment. Step 2, step and breathe. Without the breath, step 3 cannot come. So they got to take that breath, stop and breathe. And we take these steps in school together very slowly. Like these lessons are delivered over probably three or 4 lessons. But tonight, we're going to do it all together. Step 3 is see your best self. And we'll get more into what that actually means. And then step 4 is strategize and act. So I want you to think about step 4 is, so we're sensing, taking the breath, you're going to see your best self, and then you're going to make a decision that is more favorable to your own personal integrity, right? So it happens quite quickly for kids once, I mean, they don't kind of go through the steps very slowly, like it actually happens quite quickly, but we feel that when we train them to take it slowly and sort of follow the steps more methodically, over time it does become much more of a faster discipline for them. All right, the meta moment, pausing before we react. Step 1, sense the moment, recognize what's happening in the body. So for all of us, we have a physical response to stress, to certain emotions. We'll stay on the unpleasant side of the mood meter for now. So when we are angry, for me, my face might get flushed. Hands are clenched. Maybe you clench your teeth, your jaw. I know kids will typically know when adults are angry because our faces will reflect it very easily, even when we're trying hard not to. So anybody who's chopping vegetables at dinner time with the furrowed brow, kids are usually like, is something wrong? So it's usually written on our faces. Stomach ache, we get that a lot with kids. Kids will often come and say, So too, my stomach is, I don't feel good. Can I go to the nurse? And I might say, well, let's have a little check-in first. Like, what's going on? And that can also be an indicator of maybe anxiety, some fear. Restless legs. We see this a lot with younger kids. The restless legs can be just the movement necessary to work through some big feeling of usually maybe anxiety, or sometimes it's excitement and joy. So that's why it's important to really scan and sort of look and see what's going on holistically. Teeth grinding, I mentioned already before. So step 1. So we're noticing what happens in the body. Step 2 is a stop and breathe. So I always say to the kids, and I say to adults too, like, notice, it was taught to me many, many, many years ago by a meditation teacher, like, we sniff the air when we breathe on a daily basis. We're just sniffing the air. So the type of breathing we're really trying to encourage ourselves and our students to do is some really focused, deep, mindful breathing. So what I want to remind everybody is that as young as kindergarten, I have been able to work a mindfulness practice, provided I start off slow and small and consistent. So I have actually gotten kindergartners to sit from 1 minute of mindfulness all the way up, working up 1 minute a week to 10 minutes of mindfulness. Those children are 5. So I want you to sort of expel your own expectations of how long you can sit for, because sometimes what we'll do is we'll transfer that onto kids and then keep the expectations low. But actually, just like ourselves, if we practice something daily or consistently, starting with small increments and working our way up, we can actually kind of achieve something pretty significant for ourselves and for our students in building that mindfulness practice. So hold the bar high is what I'd say, and they can do it. So one of the ones I like to use with actually from K to 12, but it's really effective K to 5, is called 5-finger breathing. And I've gotten to a point with this with students now in my school where this is my indicator. So I don't have to really say anything to a kid. So when I know that they need to take a moment and pause, I can go like this to them, and they'll be like, they'll just give me a verb, like a physical nod. Okay. And that means we're ready to do our 5-finger breathing. Like, we need to take a breath, right? And it's really cool, actually, because when I go like this and this, they're like, they do it back, and I'm like, ready? And eye contact, right? Eye contact. They're like, ready? Okay. So I'm going to show you real simple. Take an index finger, opposite hand, make sure your fingers are splayed. We're going to breathe in, going up, and then out, coming down. I'm going to follow all the way around. Okay. So take a breath in with me, and out, and in, and out, and in, and out, and in, and out, and in, and out. Maybe you just might want to notice at this point, Erica's smiling. I can't really see anyone else, but I think that was just 10 breaths, people. And if you're feeling just a tiny little bit better with that, it's already like, this is immediate. These can be immediate coping skills, especially for kids. So like I said, I have a lot of success with this. So if you teach it to your students, if you model it to them, so it really can't be this. Like, if you're doing this, they'll do this. And if I see them skipping through it, I'll be like, no, we got to go back. Big, deep breaths. Like, you want to see their chest expand and their belly expand. And then they will really get the benefit. So the 5-finger breathing for K through 5. But like I said, I use it myself. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am. So guided meditations, I can't stress enough. It takes a practice. And honestly, I feel like sometimes I am in the way of, again, what my expectations are of children often, that like, oh, are they going to be able to do it? When really I'm like, am I going to be able to do it? So again, it's that mirroring and that modeling to bring about like group self-awareness, right? So we do these things, I think when we do them as groups and we're successful as a group, it's even more empowering and even more, it validates at another level, I think, these practices. So Erica, if you don't mind clicking on that. This one I like to use with my K through 5. So we're going to do it, I think, as a practice just to see if anybody gets a benefit from it. But I'm going to sit back a little bit so you can see me.
Rainbow relaxation. In this mindfulness practice, you will be stretching your muscles and breathing deeply. You can sit up straight or stand, but make sure you have some space at either side of you, as we will be raising our arms in the air. Make sure you're comfortable. Today, we are going to imagine that we are painting a rainbow in the sky, and your fingers are the paintbrushes. Start with your hands by your side and your palms facing forwards. Now, when you see the red band of the rainbow start to appear, keep your arms straight and trace it upwards with your paintbrushes. Great! Now the red band is painted, slowly bring your arms back down by your sides. Now you need to match your breathing to your painting. So when you raise your hands up for the next color, take a big breath in, and you can breathe out when you bring your arms back down. Get ready for the orange to appear. Imagine we have dipped our paintbrushes into orange paint. So breathe in and lift the arms up, and slowly back down as you breathe out. Now we're going to paint the yellow band. Imagine we have dipped our paintbrushes into the yellow paint. Breathe in as we paint the yellow band and lift your arms up. Now breathe out as you drop your arms down. Now the green band. Breathe in as we paint the green band, arms up, and breathe out as you drop your arms down. Now the blue band. Breathe in as we paint the blue band, arms up, and breathe out as you bring your arms back down. Now the indigo band. Breathe in as we paint the indigo band, arms up, and breathe out as you bring your arms back down. And now for the final color, violet. Breathe in and lift your arms up, and breathe out as your arms come down. Well done. Each time you paint the rainbow, the colors are getting stronger and deeper. Your rainbow will shine around you all day and put a smile on everyone's face.
Thank you. I love that one. I'd love to hear if anyone was able to follow along. They're feeling a little different after some breath work. Notice any changes in your body.
I feel a lot lighter.
You do. It's amazing, right?
Yeah, I feel a lot lighter and more present.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think if there's a tool to help students immediately in terms of a coping skill for an unpleasant emotion that they're really just trying to get centered, I think the 5-finger breathing is, incredibly effective. The rainbow relaxation, I mean, if a child is activated and in a very unpleasant zone, that's kind of a lot, but the 5-finger breathing will definitely get them to a place where they might be able to actually express themselves and let you know what's going on. So But the relaxation really builds in the sort of the awareness of like the feeling that it can create to be in a mindful practice, to use breath work to bring about more awareness in general. So kind of one for a short-term use, like a quick intervention, and then one is maybe if you're building a practice, a general practice around self-awareness with children, the relaxation 4-minute technique is great too. Questions or comments? Okay.
Trivia has a question, Cleo.
Mhm.
Do you want me to read it?
Sure. I'm sorry. I'm not seeing too.
Okay, Cleo, you mentioned the mood meter for nonverbal children. My son is 10 years old, nonverbal, and he uses the AAC communication device. I'm wondering how to add the mood meter to his device.
AAC. I'm not familiar with that one. I think when you say, so if you were to explain the zones to him in energy and feeling, pleasant and unpleasant, Trivia, do you think that he would be able to like place himself in whatever zone he was feeling visually?
I wonder if there's also a way for us to look up that information. And I have Trivia's email address.
Mm-hmm.
And she just said we're working on it now.
We're working on it now. Okay. I mean, I'd love to be able to assist you more with that, Trivia. And I think that for me,
okay, Trivia, I have your email address, so I will definitely get you that. We'll get you that information. Thank you so much for asking. I am going to advance the slide. Oh, and then Carrie has a great response to Trivia. I believe a lot of AAC devices allow you to set up folders or subsections, so you could have a "How do I feel" folder with all the responses behind that. That's a great suggestion. Cleo, sorry, I moved on just because you froze.
Okay. Erica,
Wait, sorry, you cut out again. Just say one more time.
I'm just checking on my connection. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Okay, so we're going to go to pausing before we react, seeing your best self. So your best self is really, you need to visualize yourself as kind, respectful, fair, strong, whatever the qualities are that you see in yourself that you see as your strength. When we visualize, we are really able to tap in to this mode of who our best self is. So when we visualize and act in alignment with those qualities, the action of which it helps us correspond our values and really activates our prefrontal cortex, which helps self-regulation. So when we can see ourselves in a state that is calm, controlled, resourceful, kind, whatever it is, we tend to act in that manner. So, and what that does then, I mean, to sort of oversimplify in a neuroscience capacity, it interrupts the amygdala-driven fight-flight reaction, which anyone who's ever been in an argument with somebody probably knows what it means to be triggered and have a fight-flight response. So if you just want to pop in the chat or give me a high five or a hands up if you understand what it means to be in a fight-flight reaction. I'm going to put mine up. Or an example. I see one new message, Erica.
Oh, yes, that was Carrie's. She was answering something that Trivia had asked before.
Okay. All right. So I'll just share, for me, might be when I am micromanaged, that would be a trigger for me. So that is a time for me to take a breath and see my best self and know that I am a professional, in control, capable, strong, and then I can proceed with the most appropriate response to the situation as an adult. For kids, it looks different. Next slide, please, Erica. So step 4, the last, is strategize and act. act. So, like I mentioned, sometimes there's a trigger. Somebody shoves, so I'll give you an example in terms of children. So somebody shoves you out of the way to get in front of you on the line. We have a chance to pause. That's step 1, 2, 3, right? You notice you're angry. You notice you feel it in your body. The emotion feels uncomfortable. You take a deep breath. Step 4, you have a moment to think, to strategize and act. So you're remembering your best self. You're remembering like, oh, okay, I think I can respond appropriately to this. And you have an opportunity to say, I did not like it when you pushed me like that. It was unsafe and I was here waiting first instead of snapping and pushing back. So that's sort of a kid example of how you might move through that step. And children are not always going to be successful they might get to the breath, but then maybe not get to the strategize and act. So we like to highlight and focus on what they were able to achieve. So if a student said to me, Ms. O'Toole, I was able to take the breath, but I had to push back. So we work backwards. Okay, so did you take enough breaths? Did you pause long enough? Were you able to see your best self? And sometimes there's a piece missing for them. And they might say, yeah, I didn't visualize my best self. I just reacted. So that's where we slow it down to the steps 1 through 4. And even if they're successful in 2 of those steps, we highlight those and work backwards to help them if they needed more help with 3 and 4. So I don't want to present it as like sort of a complete, like, here, it's going to work. Just do 1 through 4. Like adults don't even necessarily do that. But if you're missing a step, if it's like, oh, Ms. O'Toole, I wasn't sure of my best self, or I didn't know how to phrase, I did not like it when you did that, they might need more language and expression. So sometimes they need help in some of the steps, but at this point in the kiddos that I'm working with now, they will be able to tell me which one they were missing if something happens that wasn't the outcome they wanted.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to. I guess I also just wanted to ask, because it sounded like Trivia had an example of her child who's nonverbal. So I'm curious what strategize and act might look like without words.
Question. Really good question.
Cleo, if you have an idea, but if there's anyone in the school you work at that sort of struggles with verbal expression.
I feel like body language, children can read it very well and express it very well. So if your son is nonverbal, but has the ability to use the motions of his body in a certain way to come up with an expression point, like if he's in a space with other children, that somehow they are able to understand that maybe this for him is the signal for I don't feel safe, or I'm not okay, and I'm sure as a family you probably work with your child in that capacity too, but that can be communicated out into the groups he's working with, like that he has body language that he can express to let people know he's not okay, or if I need it to be something different. And sometimes I know, and I'm not sure if Trivia, if your child, if eye contact is difficult for him also, or her, sometimes that can be a challenge. But I will often say to students, sometimes you can just use the eye contact to let somebody know you need a minute, right? And we work on that. I work on that with kids a lot too, who at times have a hard time finding the words to express themselves appropriately.
Thank you. Okay, everyone. So I feel like we just well, before we move on to our last slide, we wanted to provide you with some actual tools that you could use with your children. So we have this, and this will be emailed to you, this PowerPoint presentation, but you'll have a nice article about, and I don't know if Cleo, if you want to describe the article, but just about teaching kids about coping with emotions. We have this fantastic app that you could use called How We Feel, which is a mood meter app, which prompts, does it prompt to identify self-awareness? Okay,
Mhm.
I don't know if you could. And then we have this great video on breathing exercises. So all of this will be sent to you. And Cleo, I wanted to thank you so much. That was an amazing presentation, and the kids at your school are so lucky to have you and these tools. And yeah, we'd love to just, oh, sorry, and Triviette actually answered, I spoke too soon because Triviette answered the question.
Mhm.
He's doing very well with eye contact, pointing, but body language and identifying hurts is a struggle. So
Yes, that's
practice.
great, the eye contact trivia, because I really feel like that can be such a powerful way of communication for kids. And um, I would love to think on that a little bit more. If there's ways that I could suggest for effective ways for him to communicate through, like maybe signals too, like safe signals we use sometimes in our school. But maybe we can share information and keep in contact on that.
Yeah, I'll send you her email address. Okay, any other questions before we go? Yeah, Trivia would love that. So thank you for Cleo. All right, well, we are going to, because it is almost 7 o'clock, we'll end this webinar. We hope that you have taken away some tools that you could use with your children. And we thank you for your participation and all of your questions. And we hope you have a fantastic evening. Trivia, thank you so much for all of your questions and your participation tonight. We really appreciate it.